And welcome back, picking up where we left off last time, Victoria 3, and our game is Great Qing in patch 1.9.5, as we're coming up on what will be the end of the run. I forget if it's... I think it's the first day of 1936, not the last day of 1935 that the game ends on. But we've just got under just... Well, I think we got 3 full years, if I'm remembering my dates right. It might be 2 full years, with what's left in the game. We don't quite have all the tech tree. China does start a little bit behind, and some of the changes in the current patch made tech spread specifically for China harder. But we've mostly got most of the valuable techs. There's some less valuable techs in there. Techs that would be more valuable if we're doing word conquest left in there. That we don't have, for example. We still have a fairly significant unemployment issue. Granted, we're doing a pretty good job getting that down. We've done some labor-saving PMs, which should have actually spiked that up, and instead it's come down, so that's a good sign. Population growth is still pretty high. Peasants are still pretty high. We're definitely not running as quickly or as fast as I did back in the last run in 1.8.7. I think that's a little bit coming from exponential growth effects from the mid-run. We had some screw-ups round about here, so instead of it doing like this, it's doing a shallower rise. So yeah, I don't think... There's nothing wrong with this economy that would stop it continuing to growing, other than we're going to run out of time. Right, so we're growing. There's no cessation of growth in sight, except for the fact we're going to run out of time. Which, that's understandable. We're building up reports to lower the cost to trade. As well as increasing the infrastructure on the coastline. Now that's another change we could potentially go looking for, as we don't have modern port yet. Yeah, these are profitable, so I definitely have no problem building them. They're not insanely profitable. We've hit the point where we're just about the end of the queue. So we're gonna have to put some new stuff in the queue. So let's add some government admin, because we're currently back at the point where we're short on government admin again because of population growth. Okay, and then what do I want to build next? Honestly, I want to build things that build quickly. But we're running into the problem that a lot of things that build quickly aren't necessarily profitable. We could build the coal. That might actually be profitable enough to force export on. We could build some plantation stuff. Silks are this down. Okay, silks. Apparently, we still depend on silks. There's just an oversupply of silks in the market, apparently. Worldwide market, so we don't want to press that. Oh no, we're not dependent. We're exporting it. We could probably export more then. But yeah, minus 32%. We're not trading enough. That'd be more trade volume that we'd want. Cars are fine. They're about where we want that to be price-wise. Could push some tea, could push some sugar. Those would at least build quickly. Yeah, let's push some tea, let's push some sugar. So, we're importing 10,000 sugar, so we got about 15,000 sugar demand. Growing the sugar route. $15,000 sugar? Yeah. So, 10 is 600... So that's like 200 sugar places? I suppose in this case, those would basically be also peasants. Because we're displacements. Okay. But we only have one place where we can make sugar in our country. That's probably why we're importing it. That makes sense. That makes sense. We'll still go ahead and farm that. Okay, so that's the sugar. Tea is also weirdly something we're importing. We got about 14,000 net demand. Anything past that would be exports. That one at least a little bit more. We've got capacity to produce. Still looking at about like 300 levels of tea we can make. Easily. Let's kick everything up so that it's over 50 for the throughput modifier. In the places with large numbers of peasants. Okay, let's start with that and see how that builds up. And that should build pretty quickly, because plantations are only a 2 in construction to build. Cycle analysts. For that, we can go ahead and pick up, not behavioralism, but analytical philosophy. Yeah, to be fair, this is going to reduce peasants. This isn't going to necessarily reduce the unemployed. In fact, it'll probably make the unemployed worse, because we do have this stuff enabled with, well, with rail transport. And that reminds me, come in here, set the railway to auto-expand. Should check, I know, every once in a while, just to make sure it's keeping up, but... Farms and factories, so we've reduced the peasant population enough to get this to activate. Here in the industrialist, sure. Okay, I need to queue up something else, because obviously the tea plantations don't take particularly long to build. And we have gone ahead and reduced how much we're importing, so that's a good sign there. I'm pretty sure we don't have any places where we can grow fruit. I'm wrong, we have places we can grow fruit. How much fruit are we short? A lot. $30K, about $40K fruit. So like 500 levels of fruit. That's a lot of fruit. But I guess we have a lot of people, so that's maybe not super surprising. Oh, no, I'm not even going to try in Western Borneo. Okay. And we hit 2 billion. And I think actually that's probably come off the plantation. Oh, we hit it temporarily and then it went down again. We'll see if we can keep it there in the long run. How's the Merchant Marines looking? Probably can put more Merchant Marine construction in. And I assume we've probably done all our fish. Maybe not all the fish. Okay, let's grab all the fish. Use everything that looks like it will work. Let's also make sure fish is subsidized. It is. And here the plantations are quite potentially profitable as long as the engines stay cheap, and the engines are pretty cheap. So yeah, we should be able to happily make our own plantation goods. Instead of exporting the engines, we can reduce our imports of plantation goods. We've got 1 million. That's good to see. And we're going up. Yeah, I still don't think we're going to hit the 3.7 we did in a previous run. Okay, then the next thing we want to do, we just did do fish. I'm really not going to touch the farms. I'd rather import the food. We could do... almost 10k probably per coming in, okay. Yeah, probably do merchant marines. That'll allow us for more trading increases. And maybe go back to plantation goods after the merchant marine. Like, we can't input sugar. We might be able to do coffee. Oh, I haven't started doing radios. Ooh, we haven't started doing radios. Radios will be very profitable. And we've got the wood, so we'll do this. We don't need the dye as much. Yeah, we'll let you do that. Where's the radios? Radios. There's the telephones. Don't think swapping everything over at the same time is going to be a good idea. Got about 11k, let's say 10k, plus the trade center, so about 13k we could swap. We swapped everything. Okay, we should actually be able to tolerate that. Let's do the swap. It says it's not going to be profitable, but I think it is going to be profitable once once the industry accounts for it. Okay. Okay. See how that works out. And of course, it's going to take a while for the market to adjust for the fact that we've got a shortage of telephones now, which should work itself out as demand falls from the trade centers. And the radios started out pretty unprofitable, but they've already jumped to nearly stable. Yeah. The only thing, I just need to make more telephones, which is fine. We can definitely work with that. Ruler has died. Time for the new ruler. Out with the landowners, in with the industrialists. The industrialists were in favor. No, the trade unions are in favor. Oh, well, the trade unions are in favor of getting off of this law. The industrialists apparently like this law. Okay. Now, granted, the industrialists are opposed to the current form of government and would like us to get off of monarchy. Do we end the monarchy? Weaken the aristocrats, which is fine. They're out of government anyway, and then probably not coming back. We don't have. Well, we only have one thing in government anyway. Legitimacy from head of state. The only company wouldn't be bad. We go presidential republic. That would make sense if we had voting. Just could also try passing, right? Got a lot of support for swapping some of the voting laws. Let's go wealth vote, or actually, let's go census suffrage. So what governments can we form that are stable? This one, and this one. Okay. Unless we want to lower taxes. We probably do want to lower taxes at some point, but that might actually be in the post-game at this point. Government size allowance and the legitimacy penalty for ideological capacity while stripping other groups into the government. And then we can attempt the swing to democracy. So yeah, let's try that. Oh, we just pissed off the petite bourgeoisie, meaning we need government bureaucracy out the window. Okay. Ooh, yeah, that's a lot. A lot. You know, we'll just accept that we're going to be low for a moment. Crank you down to min. That'll actually be enough if we crank you down to min, I think. We'll go ahead and expand the government bureaucracy the moment, well, actually, we'll go ahead and queue it up for expansion. But what we're going to do is basically do it after the queue. Wait, see if that's enough. Government admin. To be fair, there's a decent possibility we won't be able to get the law changes through. It did take quite a while for us to get swapped over to industrialists. Because we're literally waiting for the king to die. Emperor to die. Oil's pretty high. I think it's high enough we don't want to swap the docks over to it. So many power plants. And then railways, and then into, again, a lot of government admin. Government admin will build pretty quickly once we get to it. The mines get organized. Given the circumstances, we will go ahead and support the industrialists here, because we're using them to pass the law. We're going to swap to corporate state, then we're going to swap to elections. And then at that point, we'll probably have the government entirely rearranged with the new government. We'll see who wins. This is a decent possibility to be something like the trade unions. Yeah, 2.2. GDP is going up. Still going up. You can see the little blip there. If you know what you're looking for, you can see the blip where we had the Taiping Rebellion. It's just a slight footnote on the history of the exponential curve there. Socialization. Threatened by socialization. Threatened by socialization. Yeah, we'll take the hit to the corporatist opinion. No. Still no. So is this side asking for us to come help them against the Russians? The problem is, of course, it's against the Russians. Yeah, we're not going to come do it. We're at the point where we're not really going to be able to integrate any more territory. What's left of the game. We did manage to integrate Korea here, so we got a pretty productive Korea, given how recently we integrated it. Standard of living's up to 17.1. So we're succeeding a lot more in standard of living than we are in getting our GDP up. At least in comparison to the last major patch we ran this in all the way to completion. But then we still have pretty high peasants, still have pretty high unemployed. We never really hit the point where the unemployment was running down, where I went ahead and completed the labor-saving PMs. So there's still a lot more labor-saving PMs we can activate. We might try gambling on doing that near the end, because what that'll do is it'll shoot up the demand for tools and coal. Yeah, let's actually go ahead and do that. So we got you subsidized, no labor saving PM. Then you got you subsidized. Not actually sure we have the power. We have the tools. We mechanize those looms. Subsidize you. We don't have the oil per se, but we've got enough for rotary valves. So we can turn you on. Again, you can definitely happily take that coal. And the coal consumption. This is a little bit of gamble on whether it will be profitable or not. From a GDP standpoint. No level these. Because it's mainly a gamble on is the extra coal consumption going to help offset the GDP loss. Well, to be sure, it's mainly going to move everyone over to the government budget, which is probably fine. Yeah, coal price jumps, tool price jumps. Doesn't really do much to the GDP, apparently. Though, it does give us the ability to go buy more, build more coal, buy more coal, that sort of stuff. That might help a little bit. One of our subjects is having a civil war, apparently. We'll go ahead and send the 16th. Go and make that quick war. There's the analytical philosophy department. That means we need to do the tech. Don't have the government bureaucracy for the healthcare, so we'll pass on that for the moment. We'll go the one that provides the MAPI. At this point, I just don't think we have enough tech rate to actually get anything done, really, so it's probably not going to make a big difference. Mechanization farming. Get throughput on all the farms. More radios. Yes, more radios. World must be dependent on our radios. Yeah, decent profitability in the radios. Could even probably build more telephones, but you want to join the Supreme Bloc? Okay. Yeah, I think GDP growth has been a little stagnant this year. The attempt to improve the GDP by implying the labor-saving PMs, I think, didn't work. Sure, coffee. Coffee actually wouldn't be a bad idea if we had someplace to build some. 2. Sure, we'll build 3 there. We're not going to build the West Borneo one. And I can build some tea. We can build some fruit as well. Fruit's still pretty big demand because we're trading for it. Yeah, could happily build like 500 fruit at this point. We don't have that much space to build it. In fact, we've got 17 more we can get. Okay. So then it is tea. Could happily put like 200 in here. Maybe food? Food factories. They won't build particularly fast because they're still 600 cost industries, but... $700 food factories in theory. Lots of potential demand for them. It's predicting them not to be very profitable, but that's because it's not accounting for the trade rates downsizing. And to be fair, that's probably not all going to build, because we're in October of the last year at this point. Okay, so one last gasp to get all the growth that we can. Let's go ahead and subsidize everything. Normally that's not necessarily a good thing to do, because you can technically lower the GDP by doing this. Because if the product is cheaper than the inputs, it lowers the GDP. What I'm hoping to do is get people, or get places that the products are more than the inputs, but not once you add the labor in. So we're basically paying like a third or something of the labor, hopefully. Maximizing the GDP is kind of the hope with that big push. The answer is probably no, but it's worth trying. At this point, we might as well actually, I suppose, we don't need the tax revenue. Drop the tax revenue. Yeah, we got up to 2.2. So definitely better than when I did the proportional taxation too early, but not well. Again, I think I invested too much in trade when I invested after the isolation to protectionism swap, and that meant that instead of sort of going up much quicker, going up much slower, we still got up to apparently 2.29, so just short of 2.3. But that is lower than the 3.7 we got on the last full run. And I think our standard of living was still a little bit lower as well. Wasn't doing a lot. Another thing I could do is I could maybe play around with wages a little bit. We don't necessarily need to be first in prestige the entire time. Could technically say drop the government wages and drop the military wages to save money on those, so we can push that into towards more construction. We may try that in another run at some point, but this is where this run is going to go and end. We'll hit continue play here, so we can come in and see our country. I'll put a quick post-game save in. Okay. So now we're basically in the after-action report. Didn't quite get all the laws we wanted through as quickly as possible. We had some problems getting laissez-faire. We did do colonial affairs, so we were able to take over a bunch of territory that you may have not have without the level of infamy we had. We did have all the way into Persia. Other runs I've managed to get Mesopotamia, but didn't have time to really deal with the Turkey. Didn't get Burma this time, but we got a little bit of Borneo. In hindsight, I think Burma is probably more valuable than Borneo. Borneo's got gold, but as we were having problems with West Borneo here, apparently doesn't have the people. And if you end up with angry people, it can be difficult to get people to move in to work the mines, and then you can have like this situation. I think everyone here is working. We got 256 guys in the lead mines. We've got 200 guys in the power plants, and the manor houses have 6. So there's less than 5,000 people working in West Borneo, or less than 500 people working in West Borneo. And it's hard to work with a state that's that small. So like I probably shouldn't have even bothered. Like that wasn't worth doing. North Borneo is a little bit better. We got 15 million GDP out of that state. Because with at least 2 million people, we're able to do something, but 3,000 is a no. One of the problems I tend to find also, or was finding also, was if you're not expanding your GDP as quickly as you would like, you have lower standard of livings, and lower standard of livings means you have higher unrest, and well, like the main zone here isn't going to make much sense. Higher unrest, which means you're going to have more devastation from things. You're going to have more turmoil. I'm not actually sure what's causing the devastation here. I suspect West Borneo is shared with other people, so probably other people are causing some devastation as well, which is overflowing into us, which isn't helping. Yeah, so lots of devastation. That slows down your construction. Turmoil slows your construction. I think you only get the devastation if you're... I think that was an idiosyncrasy of that area where we're getting a lot of devastation there. But if you get behind the 8 ball and you end up with a bunch of unrest, the unrest slows down your construction, and the most reliable way often to fix unrest is to build. So you get caught in a... deal with the turmoil is to build. So you get caught in a catch-22 of, to fix the problem, you need to build, which means you have to suffer the problem. Which means if you can preempt it by getting your stuff built before it's a problem, then you don't have the problem. That was maybe one thing we could potentially have done with the subjects we did integrate, is it may have made sense to build up in them prior to integration, so that when we integrate them, we're not like, I need to build stuff to lower the unrest, but rather the unrest is mostly dealt with, and what's left is stuff you can kind of ignore while it calms down. And in hindsight, I didn't realize that it was 5 years to integrate Korea. Otherwise, it might make sense to go into Korea earlier. It may actually make sense to go into Japan, which we didn't do. Because Japan's probably the right culture for our population, right? Go look at society. Can I figure that out? Cultures. So primary is Han. East Asian culture does include Japanese. Yeah, so it'd be like a 5-year integration for the Japanese culture. So we could integrate Japan a lot quicker than we were, say, doing Southeast Asia and Persia. Granted, Persia was a lot of oil. Southeast Asia was a rubber source. And we were very reliant in both cases, even with those resources, with international trade. We were importing 14,000 from 14,000 rubber. We were importing 40,000 oil. And honestly, we'd like to do more of both of those. So either we're going to do more globetrotting, or that was maybe the argument, right? Is I probably invested in trade too early, because we weren't at the point where we needed to import stuff, right? Probably what I should have done is I think I put like 5 or 10 levels everywhere. We should have put like 1, right? There, I think in this patch there is a glitch where the trade centers don't build if you only have if you have 0 of them someplace. They only build where you've got some. So obviously working around that glitch, you should build 1 everywhere. But we didn't need like 5 or 10 or whatever we built everywhere. So yeah, a lot of places probably have a lot more trade capacity than they really needed at that point. So this point at the end of the game, they probably, yeah, I think I built like 10 everywhere. I think I built 10 everywhere. We didn't need 10 everywhere. You can see here, we're not using 10. We're using what, 41? We're using like 3 or 4 maybe. It's 100% trading capacity. So they're like 12 each. Oh, we have. No, they're like 10 each. Okay, so 5 is base. You start on self trade, which is a regular trade, which is normal 10. Okay, yeah. So when we built these, we probably should have built like 1 everywhere and then let it expand from there as was needed. Instead, we were subsidizing places like this, where it's like, yeah, of course we need 125 trade capacity. No, we don't. We don't need that much. That's probably what shot me in the foot. So if we were to redo this again, I'd probably go back and again, this was my first time playing a game where we actually got to trade in more than 1 state using the new trade centers. So I overinvested in trade capacity way too early, and that's kind of what shot us in the foot. Instead, I should have probably been waiting until we have need for foreign resources to set up the trade centers and let the private queue expand them as needed. Or if I'm thinking, hey, I want to build X to export, build the trade centers where the building is that produces the thing. So yeah, that's a bit of after action report. I think this building 10 levels of these, as can be seen here, as early as we did, is kind of what we did to screw this run up. On the other hand, that's also showing you the power of trade. Unlike the proportional tax change, this only set us. Well, we did better than that one. The proportional tax change, I think we only got up to like 1.3 billion. When we fixed the proportional tax change, we got up to 3.7. We got up to 2.2 here. Again, I think that's the trade centers dragging us down. That's also a little bit getting stuck in per capita. So we went land-based per capita. It was probably the right choice when we did that, but I maybe needed to look into trying to get out of proportional quicker, which would have been a backslide to land and then over into proportional. Which I screwed that up, right? We're now sitting at the point where, yeah, on medium taxes at the end of the game, we could have been running 3 million more income. And 3 million more income, okay, we didn't need it at the end, right? Because we have enough credit, and we were just realizing, okay, we're not going to spend all the credit before the end of the game. But yeah, like 3. In fact, we can go ahead and raise the taxes here. Right, so we got about a 6K shortage. Swap over to proportional. Yeah, we'd be about a million short. And that's a lot better. Right, so we were definitely in the point where we could have probably pushed the gears. If we solved the trade thing, got on proportional, we could have pushed the gears a little bit faster. I could definitely see it should be possible to get up to 3.7 again, if not higher. Again, the trade is helping with a lot of things. We did expansion specifically to get rubber and oil, and even with those rubber and oil expansions, we were using more rubber, we were using more oil than we were producing. So we could have very happily accepted more oil, more rubber, to make more goods. Another minor thing that I got caught up in is it's easy to sort of not pay attention to potentials when you have such a big trade capacity, is because then it'll backfill things like clothing. Probably should have made more clothing sooner. Clothing was reasonably profitable, and it's still reasonably profitable here. And then, yeah, I think it is worth paying attention to your luxury overflows. We backed off, specifically on clothing, we backed off on. Granted, we backed off on clothing, on the luxury clothing, because we had sort of a rubber shortage. We had a rubber shortage and a heavy demand for clothing, so we backed off of it. But it definitely doesn't necessarily, unless you've got the spare resources to do it, doesn't necessarily make sense to go full in on porcelain or clothing. Or porcelain, luxury porcelain, or luxury furniture. So in the case of furniture here, we're minus 7% furniture, minus 14% luxury furniture. So the furniture is probably about right. Porcelain, we could potentially backslide a little bit on the porcelain to give us a little more glass. Or maybe we would have been better off staying backslid so we could get more glass out of it without having to build so much. Because again, the glass is pretty cheap. The porcelain is pretty cheap. It's not so cheap that I'm going like, oh, I really don't want to build it, right? So I think it's about minus 20% is when you want to stop. You hard want to stop building things. So like, I'm not building wine, right? That's just natural wine production here. In theory, it might even be worth coming and dropping the export tariff off of it. But we weren't really working on wine. We weren't building meat, which is why meat's expensive. We probably could have built up telephones. We were using it as a government good, so that's actually one place where we could save money. If we need to get the government revenue improved, we could go ahead and raise telephone production. I tried to do a swing off of ammunition and such. Sort of the grumpiness I had around there in the Civil War, the Taiping Rebellion, meant that I stopped sort of playing that game right, but as the Great Qing, we have a newly created army. When we tried playing the effect, we had the army powerful at the time, so we were getting minus 30% military goods cost. Militarized industry here is another 15%, so that's 45. The corporation, which I don't think was reliably doing it, but corporation is another 10, so that's 55. Peasants is another 10%? Another 10%. So yeah, we were getting that at the height of it. We were getting like 16 or getting 65% off of all our government military goods, which meant we could afford to have a very, very, very large army in military goods and sort of buff the economy that way. In hindsight, I think that was definitely a thing to do with the fleet. Less sold on that being a thing to do with the army, especially with the artillery. Because there's no consumer demand for artillery. There is consumer demand for guns. So if something goes wrong and you need to pull back on the guns, you can always kind of push that off onto other countries and your pops. But there's no consumer demand for guns. So we're just purely waiting on the guns being demanded by other nations. Guns actually required for some boats. Okay, the Ironsides use some artillery. Yeah, you change it so some of the other ships have artillery demand. Yeah, okay, so at some point you need to get artillery just to support the warships. That's fair. But you could also run just pure light ships and then you don't need the artillery. Yes, we could have definitely done that differently where we didn't focus on the artillery as much. Definitely I think getting the fleet made sense because the fleet gave us more declarant interests. And maybe if anything, maybe more fleet would have been... More fleet, less army. Because most of the time we had plenty of army. And in fact, even after we lost army from the reorganization after the Taiping Rebellion, we never rebuilt it. you have a revolt, we lost. Because we didn't need it to keep the Russians from really doing anything. But yeah, this was an interesting run. I learned a lot of stuff about 1.9 in the process of running this run. We probably will go ahead and run it again. At some point I'll probably be large to do it again. We're gonna take a short break before we do the next run. Go ahead and play something else. So what was I thinking of putting the cycle? So we got Shadow Empire coming up in 2 days. Tonight will be the Long Dark. Tomorrow will be Terraformers. The Red Planet Awaits. So those are the 3 games we got in the schedule. I'm thinking Tuesday we'll probably try to start up a run of... I'm trying to remember the name of the game. I'm scrolling through my Steam library to remind myself what the game's called. And then I'm currently failing to find the game in my Steam library. I know it's in the Steam library. Played it already. I haven't played it on stream, which is why we're gonna play it. Yeah, there it is. We're gonna do some Grand Tactician Civil War, I think, on Tuesday. Yeah, and I think Victoria 3 will probably be what returns after that. I might put something else in the cycle, but we'll probably play more Victoria 3. There'll be a short break before we do the next run, so this can all get live. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this is going to be the last of this series of Victoria 3. I'm debating whether or not we'll start cold over with the next Great Qing run. Because I definitely do want to try to doing it better. I think we can do it better. 2.2 isn't as good as the old 3.7 from 1.8.7. And we're currently on patch 1.9.5. So I think we can do it better. Now, I don't know if I'm going to wait until the next patch comes out. I might wait until 1.9.6 comes out of beta and try it on that patch. Anyway, that would make sense. That would probably reduce the level of confusion between the runs and explain why we're doing the run over again. I definitely think we could do it better. Not in a rush to do it. So if you're watching on YouTube, this is where this bit's going to end. If there's any countries you want to see run besides the Great Qing, if you're watching this on YouTube or watching this on Twitch, feel free to leave that as a comment. I'm doing the outro right now, so if you're on Twitch watching live and you've got an idea, feel free to leave that as a comment. Otherwise, if you're watching it as a VOD or video later, feel free to leave it as a comment on YouTube. YouTube's a little bit better for the asynchronous comments. Because, yeah, I'm open to suggestions on what other countries to run. At least in Victoria 3, I tend to prefer larger countries. So don't give me a suggestion to go, like, play Texas. Like, you're not going to get me playing Texas, I'm sorry. Now, granted, large countries can be fairly small, right? I tend to consider... Like, Spain, to me, is a reasonably large country. I'll play Spain for you, but Portugal's not that bad. It might at some point be interesting to play Paraguay or Uruguay. But yeah, no Texas, no Indian territories. I'm not that good at the game. At some point, I'll probably have to do Japan. America is interesting. I don't necessarily like the problems with some of the American journal entries. They've gone a little bit too hard in shoehorning the Trail of Tears and the Civil War. Granted, the Civil War one I know why, is because people were complaining about the Civil War being too easy to bypass, but they got a little bit too hard on shoehorning those, in my mind. We'd definitely be open to doing Spain, France. There's other places we play, so if you've got any suggestions on places you'd like to see next besides the Great Qing, again, feel free to leave those in the comments. We're definitely probably going to do another Great Qing run. It depends on how quickly the beta patch comes out, or the beta patch becomes the live patch. How quickly we get the Great Qing. But yeah, the following games we're going to stream is going to be being Long Dark later tonight. So if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously later tonight is in your past, so Long Dark will have already been recorded for you. Tomorrow will be Terraformers. That'll probably be the last regular stream for Terraformers, the Red Planet Awaits. Because at this point we've run all the scenarios and we're just turning up the difficulty. The day after that will be Shadow Empires. The day after that, I think it's going to be Grand Tactician Civil War. Be a long play of that. And obviously that means this is ending. Terraformers is ending. So I'm gonna have to find some new games to put in the cycle. So this may be back sooner rather than later because I'm interested in playing more of this, and it's just finding a place to put it in the cycle. Granted, there's other things I want to put back in the cycle. We want to take another run at Terra Invicta. After seeing some another YouTuber's views or videos on weapon usage, weapon effectiveness, I've got some ideas that will help maybe make that a little bit more interesting. For another run of that. Probably want to do a run of Stellaris. I haven't played Stellaris in a long time, so we'll probably do Stellaris. But probably after those three get put in the cycle and get done. For example, I don't think Stellaris is necessarily going to be particularly long. Probably going to do similar to what we do here. Is only do 100 years of Stellaris. We'll come back to Victoria 3. Yeah, so that's the schedule. That's the plans going forward. If you're watching YouTube, there'll won't be another video of Victoria 3 up tomorrow, but there'll be other videos up, right? So there's still Long Dark running. There's still Terraformers running. Though we're recorded farther ahead on this one, so maybe by the time we're watching this, the Terraformers won't be running because the Terraformers will have be done already or something. But Terraformers, there may be some. Shadow Empire should be recorded, and the first bit should probably be up by then. The Grand Tactician Civil War, probably by the time you're watching this, the first one of that will be recorded. It might not be posted. That might actually be the first video that might be coming up tomorrow. And now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, the games in the cycle. Hope you've been enjoying, and hope you'll enjoy the games that come up in the future. So until the next run or the next part, or until the next run, the next stream, I hope you all enjoy. And with that, wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Bye for now.